Hey guys, War Eagle here, coming at you with another Tactical Hunter episode. And by popular request, you guys wanted how to scout. So here I am at about 9,000 feet on the side of a mountain in the snow to help explain to you how to scout. So, for scouting, there's three main resources you need to use. Okay, first is we need to have like an onX Maps or some map resource that gives me good coordinates and everything else. I need to have the Colorado Hunting Atlas out, and I also need to have um, like internet access and stuff so that I can Google and check stuff out. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So these things here, all right. There's three kind of different hunts you can do out here in Colorado. The first hunt is you can hunt close to a major city and have a ton of people out there hunting with you. The second hunt you can do is you can hike way in somewhere and be the only person out there, but then you're busting brush and trying to figure it out on your own. And then the third option is that you can find small pieces of private land surrounded by, or small pieces of public land surrounded by private land, like big ranches and stuff like that, that you can find access to, like access roads or be able to hike to, whatever. And so um, that's why you need to do the map recon. And so map recon for me, I'll start out on onX, and onX will show me, if it's public or private. But sometimes on onX, especially out east, it'll show me that there's state wildlife land. But if you click on it, it shows that the state wildlife area is no access to the public. And if you don't click on it, you're not going to know. So this is why it's super important to bounce from onX to the Colorado Atlas, and then I can double check to see if there's something that's actually open to hunting, or if it's just a state wildlife area that they're, you know, using for the purpose of trying to bring the antelope population up or whatever it is. Okay. The next piece is right. So with this, I'm out here hunting up and down, checking stuff out. You can map recon it really good, and it only gets you so far though. Okay, you gotta put boot in the dirt and figure out what it is. And my turkey hunting place is actually a place that I originally scouted for elk. It's located in between two big national parks, a state park, and so they're moving to and from throughout here. So originally, when I was scouting for elk, I you know was looking, and then eventually found out just had to be a good group of turkeys in here. Um, Now, as far as crowdedness and stuff like that, that's hit or miss, and you don't know how many people is going to be out here until you really get boots out here. But another thing I'll do to kind of help me gauge whether this is a unit I want to even waste time cutting trails in is, I get online and I'll start Googling questions about people asking about that unit and see how many things I'm finding, like chat rooms and other stuff, of people hunting this unit or people scouting this unit or people trying to see if this is a good unit for them. The more I can see, it kind of helps me judge whether or not this is a unit that has a lot of population, hunting it or not, before I go out and start cutting trails. So what I like to look for when I'm map scouting is I like to try to find a key piece of public land surrounded by private, preferably big ranches and stuff like that. And once that part has been identified, I'm looking for a dominant terrain feature on the public land. Okay. So the problem is if you're out here scouting in the mountains, right? And there's one big piece of dominant hill terrain, and it's on the private side and not the public. The birds are going to be roosting over there, okay? Because these high altitude Merriams, they like to roost on the non-windy side of the steepest, nastiest slope you can find. It helps them stay away from predators. I mean, out here for them, and they got bears, bobcats, mountain lions, coyotes, dogs, feral cats. I mean, they got everything out here trying to hunt them. So they they like to stay on the nastiest little piece of steep terrain. So I want to find, at least on the public side of it, the terrain features there. I don't care if they're going to go feed on the private side. I want to catch them as they're in their migration pattern coming back over to here. So Merriams aren't like the Merriams down on east, out east in the plain area. They're a little more predictable down here. Up here, these Merriams move, and they're moving 3, 4, 5 miles a day. They got a really big range, and you have to spend a lot of time in the specific area you're looking to hunt these birds in to figure out how often they're coming back in here. This particular property that I'm standing on right now, they come in here about every 3 to 5 days. So 3 to 5 days I'm out here and I don't see nothing. But I'm also out here hunting by myself, so that's why I like to hunt. I don't have any other pressure out here. The birds don't get any other pressure, so I don't mind coming out here and just walking trails for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden this place is amazing because all the birds are here, and it's just like everything's going perfect. Okay, so that's hunting. These birds up here have a range. You're gonna have a hard time finding a piece of property where you can not have to chase or wait them out a little bit, and that's just the way Merriams are. So with that up here, the birds got a range 3 to 5 days. I learned this by watching and seeing like where the trails cut through, right? I do have a big dominant piece of terrain feature on public land here. It is where they go to roost, and on this dominant terrain feature there's a couple different spots that they like to roost at. And so if I don't put them to bed, I got to kind of check the whole thing in the morning to see which one of the roost spots they were at, or if they were up on there. So the next piece is, if you're going to hunt smart like this, you need to have a good map system, and GPS is telling you exactly where you are, and you're on good public ground. Because if you get off that, you accidentally wander on the private, out here in Colorado, they don't mess around, and all these ranchers and stuff have a ton of trespassers, a ton of poaching. They're having a hard enough time making it as it is. They also, a lot of them guide or have the people they let come out, and that's a money-making factor for them to help keep their ranch. So they don't mess around. You get caught walking around on land you're not supposed to be on, it's a hefty price, all right, and they'll force your call. So you need to make sure that you are good and on the public side. That doesn't mean that I can't call birds off the private, right? So I got the roost spot over here. They jump down and they start walking over to the ranch side to go over there and feed for the day and whatnot. That doesn't mean I can't call them over, right? So I hunt the fence line. I'm not afraid to do it because I know I'm right. And it's hard enough to hunt anyway. So if I'm over here, I'll set up. If I get a bird screaming on the other side of that fence line, I'll have it set up and I'll start sweet talking them over. And a lot of times they come. So knowing that you are on the right side of the fence is critical, and making sure that you're good, because you don't want to get up here and then have some rancher come up and start throwing a fit or whatever because you're hunting on the fence. You need to be able to show that I'm golden, and you can go find something else to do. So we talked about the early recon, right? Looking at the maps. We talked about busting stuff. Next, I'll talk about trail cams. I have a ton of cheap trail cams up here. I don't put expensive trail cams up because bears are up here and they'll come up here and maul my trail cams all up, and so I lose them once in a while. So I do put some of the cheapest trail cameras I can put up here to help me pattern out how often birds are coming, make sure they're still using the same things. This also helps show me how many chicks they have throughout the year, and as it comes to fall and stuff, how many these chicks are growing up. Sometimes you'll have real bad, like when I first started hunting here, these hens were having maybe 1 or 2 chicks of theirs survive, and that was it. Like they were just getting decimated by the predators. And so that brings me to my next point. If you find a good spot to hunt, you got to take care of that flock, right? Because I'm the only person that hunts turkeys up here. I've seen one other hunter up here 6 years ago on the first day of season, and I never seen anybody since. So I consider myself the caretaker for this flock, and it is my responsibility to predator manage, right? And I can see on my trail cams whether how many hens and chicks and, you know, small town jigs and stuff like that are surviving as they're, you know, growing up, and these flocks are staying good and healthy, and there's 4 or 5 that are making it compared to the 1 or 2 that it used to be. It lets me know that my predator management is working really well. So, you know, somebody's gotta take care of them, and, you know, if you don't, then you're gonna have a hard time hunting. The next piece is don't hunt the turkeys in the fall. I repeat, don't hunt the turkeys in the fall. Okay, if you hunt these birds in the fall, more pressure on them, that pressure is going to make them change patterns, and it also is causing the bird to have more stress, right? These birds are up here not getting stressed out, you know, no one's chasing them or hunting them, putting pressure on them during the fall time, then come springtime, it is so much better hunt. So if you really want to have a better spring hunt, better that interaction, turkey gobbling in your face, you know, having a great time, then you want to do no hunting in the fall. Just let them be. You got deer and everything else to worry about at that point anyways. Just let them be, let them rest, you know, let them winter, and then come springtime, you know, you got more gobblers out here, more jigs turn into young birds, and then you're getting more of these, you know, tight, cool interactions. So you go out there, you do the scouting. Sometimes you start scouting something and it doesn't turn out to what you want it to be. You know, I've got a couple other little places I have like backup turkey spots where the flocks aren't as big. You know, but you got to put the boots down on the ground. You got to see what it is. The more time I spend out here, the more time I get to see how many birds are here, what they're moving through. You know, are they pressure? Are they not? Are they, you know, that's stuff that you have to cut dirt on. But I like to do as much on the beginning part as I can to make sure that I'm not wasting my time out here all year. And then when I come out here in the springtime, you know, expecting to have a good hunt, and then there's 17 hunters out here also hunting this, you know, 100-acre area of public, you know. So that's not what I want, and it's not what I want for you. So, you know, do the things you can do beforehand, the map recons, looking for dominant pieces, terrain feature, looking for big ranches and stuff around the side. You know, something that you can get access to, you know, whether you have to hike to it or whether you can get into it with a car. If you get to it with a car, so can everybody else, and you'll find more people. But if you got to hike into there, then that's where you have better hunts. You know, a lot of people can't hike. So when you get up there, you know, I'll show you a video of my terrain feature that these birds are roosting on, and it's not going to look as impressive, you know, from the phone video camera, but it is a lot steeper than it looks, and all the birds go to there when they're in this area. So that lets me have that option. When you're hunting turkeys in the mountains, if you didn't put them to roost, you don't need to go off chasing them, or you don't need to be in there in the dark, walking into where you think they're roosting at and bumping birds off roosts, okay? So it's not imperative that I'm inside in the middle of my hunting spawn in the dark. What's imperative is that I'm at where I can where turkeys are going to possibly be, and I can start working my way through calling recon and getting those birds interactions. So I'm not bumping them out of the trees and messing up the patterns and everything else while they're in the roost, while I'm just trying to get somewhere. Now, if I know where they're at and I put them to bed the night before, then that changes. I'll be, you know, 100 yards off of where they're at set up. But if I don't know where they're at, I don't risk it. I come up here right at daylight as soon as it's legal to see, and I start working my way through calling. So just how I handle that part of it. Now, talked about hunt, we talked about scouting, we talked about trail cams, we talked about busting feed out here, talked about taking care of the flock. You know, the last good piece to scouting is having communication, right? And that communication is with like one or two like-minded people that they're good with you. And you know, it's hard for a lot of people, you know, have guys that like to come out and hunt, if you can have multiple guys kind of scouting different areas throughout the season, you can combine your knowledge together between the one or two of you, and since it's not such a big group, you're not putting that much pressure on the birds. You can work on one while he works on another, and so you're not like bouncing between like 4 or 5 different properties. You know, if you're trying to figure it out, a couple people working together to figure out which one of these 3 or 4 or 5 properties that I found that I think are going to be good are going to be the best. That helps you not waste as much time if you're trying to do it by yourself. So out here, like I said, these birds like to hunt. These birds like to hang out in the steep terrain features. And real quick thing about hunting that bird like that, I don't go into the nasty steep part of the hill. I work the bottom of the ridges and the top of the ridges, and I try to pull that bird to me. I have found that the more times I go into the ridge, in the steep, nasty part, to go try to get this bird, I'm getting flanked by him, and the set's getting blown, and I'll get to see a bird, but I don't ever get shot at it. So, I like to work the tops and bottom of the ridges, and call up and in, up from the top and down from the bottom, and to get as much sound as I can from each side. So I'm hunting as much as possible. I'm not in there making super amounts of pressure on the hens and other stuff that's running around there that I'm not hunting right now. Also, that I am making sure that I'm not blowing sets, and these birds aren't getting wise, because if I don't change my game and this bird's busted me before, then he's going to bust me again. He's going to bust me the next time. So, the least amount of times he gets to learn from that, the better off it is for me and everybody else that hunts it. So, just a quick piece of that. But that's the my intro on how to scout here and how to make it happen. You can hike back into these areas. You can get out there. National Wild Turkey Federation's got a bunch of info. If you don't support National Turkey Federation, please do. They got a bunch of info, and they also have a page on the onX map talk about like different bird locations and how many birds are in this area, and kill numbers and tag numbers and stuff like that. So that's a cool resource. Definitely look that up. But they got that kind of info too. So the more foreground scouting you can do before you start putting boots on the deck, the better it is for you. But try to find these little hunting holes, these little places. They're all over the place. You might drive for a while to get there, but the harder it is to get to, the less people are going to be there. And if you want to have a really, unique experience, the more miles you put in, the harder it is to get there, the more awesome it's going to be for you. That's just how it is. So, War Eagle Tactica Hunter, and hope you're killing them.